Out of the reaction to President-elect Trump's threat to hit Canada and Mexico with tariffs on day one of his new administration. Two countries are pushing back. Mexico's president is warning that her country could retaliate against the U.S. with tariffs of its own. Chief Business Correspondent Rebecca Jarvis here with the story. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning to you, George. Nice to see you guys. And he is threatening Mexico and Canada with those tariffs unless they crack down on the flow of migrants and drugs. They are pushing back, but it is American consumers who could end up paying the biggest price. This morning, President-elect Trump's threat to impose tariffs on America's neighbors already prompting a growing fight with Mexico and Canada. Mexico's new president threatening to retaliate with tariffs of their own if Trump follows through on his pledge to impose 25% across-the-board tariffs on both countries, potentially sparking a devastating trade war.
No es aceptable.
Mexico's president says tariffs are not acceptable and it would cause inflation and job losses in the U.S. and Mexico. Adding later, Mexico respects Trump, but we also ask respect for ourselves. To the north, in Canada, an emergency session of Parliament where Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who's had a rocky relationship with Trump, is trying to calm nerves, speaking to Trump within hours of him posting his threat Monday night.
What we will do is stand up for Canadian jobs, as we have before, as we will continue to. Stand up for the prosperity we create when we work together.
But analysts believe the damage wouldn't be limited to overseas. Several major companies have already made clear American consumers would pay much of the cost of any tariffs. With inflation still cooling, Americans could be hit with higher prices for electronics, cars, hardware, groceries, and even gasoline. Best Buy CEO, for example, telling investors during an earnings call Tuesday the vast majority of that tariff will probably be passed on to the consumer as a price increase. Trump has long favored tariffs to achieve his goals, this time accusing America's two largest trading partners of letting drugs and migrants cross the border, promising pain if something doesn't change. And the question now is how much of that tough talk actually becomes action when you look at President-elect Trump's cabinet, his economic cabinet. Many of them are seen by Wall Street as more moderate on tariffs. The perception is, George, that this is a negotiating tactic at this point.
And that's one of the reasons that the stock market keeps rising.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking all of this in stride at this point, Wall Street was up 20% going into the election. The S&P 500 now up 27% for the year, and that's what's reflected in most 401ks and retirement accounts. And I can tell you, while you're hearing from a lot of world leaders on this topic, behind the scenes, it's the CEOs talking to the president-elect about what this would do to their business and their consumer.
Okay, Rebecca, thanks very much.